So Andrew's going to take us on a little journey into our hearts and into that intuitive space, and then we'll proceed.
All right, everybody. Thank you. This is a great honor to invite you to come on a bit of a journey. It's about 100,000-year journey, and it's not a one-way journey. It's a return trip. We bought a return ticket. So if we just close our eyes and just drop into our visionary imagination. One of the wonderful things of being a human is we can make stuff up. We can imagine that we're anywhere in the universe at any time. And we can agree to go along with a storyteller. And one of the most magical things, of course, is sitting around a campfire with grandfather, telling a story perhaps that we've heard 100 times before, but as kids, we can't wait to hear it again. So here's that story. Here we sit, this little group of humans, sitting, as some like to put it, on the ground at the bottom of everything. And the time that we have just left is 50,000 years approximately in our future. And we don't know anything about years, and we don't know anything about time travel. All we know is that we are here in this present moment, which is a very pleasant moment. This lake that we're sitting on the beach by the edge of this lake, this is a warm, crystal clear lake full of fish. And the lake is surrounded by trees, and the climate is tropical or subtropical. It's very lush. The food is abundant. The wildlife is abundant. The sounds are, listen, can you hear them? We hear the magpies, and we hear just the multiple sounds of the birds and the bees and the animals and the children splashing in the edge of the lake. And we simply sit here, closing our eyes as a group and imagining where we have come from. And perhaps we've been on a very, very long journey, perhaps for tens of thousands of years, perhaps from some other place entirely before we found ourselves a home here by the lake. And you could think of the lake as Mungo Lake, but Mungo is not the name of the lake. I don't know what the name is. Perhaps we don't do that. Do we need to have a name? Perhaps not. So we sit and we breathe. And we see deep in our inner beings, we see the creation of the mountains and the rivers and the forests and the oceans. And we remember the stories we've been told by our elders and our ancestors, and we share them with each other. And we simply sit and listen to the sounds. And we can open our eyes if we like, but our inner eyes, our interior eyes, and look at the ripples that the wind makes on the water, the sound of the wind in the trees, the aliveness of everything, and a sense of perhaps gratitude, a sense of just the joy of being together, the joy of hearing the sounds of our children, of knowing that there's food, of knowing that we're safe, that we are secure, knowing that the cycle of the seasons comes and goes, and there's always everything we need. It's just very beautiful and very peaceful. And then the grandfather sitting here by the fire starts to tell a story. And he tells this wild, in our future world, we might think of it as science fiction. But he's describing a future reality, 50,000 cycles of the sun, in the future as we sit here around this beautiful tropical lake. And in his story, he's describing this very strange machine. And this machine has a screen on it. And that screen is divided up into little rectangles. And in those little rectangles, contained by those little rectangles, are these pictures of these people who don't really look like us. Our skins are very brown, and their skins are not nearly as brown, but they're obviously humans, and they exist in, he calls it the future. And he tells us it's 50,000 years in the future. And 50,000 years in the future, here we are on these screens, scattered all over the planet. It's quite mysterious. And there's no sign of the lake. There's no sound of the birds. There's simply the sound of this voice telling us where we are. A sort of a, what should we say, perhaps a guide or a shamanic fellow who can tell these wild and crazy, strange stories about people who exist on these little screens. So let's just stop, and having just returned from a 100,000-year journey, let's keep our eyes closed just for 30 seconds and breathe. Exhale completely. And inhale very, very gently. And exhale. And breathe back in very, very gently. And what we have brought back from that place 50,000 years ago is a sense of peace, a sense of life, a sense of love, a sense of security, a sense of knowing that all is well. And one last breath. And let it go. And when you're ready, open your eyes. And here we are. Thank you.